The star sea arrived before dawn. No sunrise came after the night of the Zero Throne. The sky simply changed color, from black to a bruised silver filled with slow-moving points of light. At first, people thought they were stars. Then the points blinked in sequence. Too precise, too close, too many. 7 cities sounded the alarm together. South Wall's sirens had screamed through monster tides. Civil collapse. And the opening of the original gate. This alarm was different. It was lower, older. It did not warn people to hide from an attack. It warned them that the world had been noticed. Lin Jin stood on the outer platform with one arm in a sling and the other hand pressed against the new boundary. The original gate was no longer a throne room. It had become a living edge around humanity, thin as breath and stubborn as bone. Beyond it, the star sea gathered in layers. The 9th Star Lord had retreated. It had not forgiven. Zhang Yu limped onto the platform with 2 officers behind him and a cup of bitter medicine in his hand. 7 City Report, he said. No one is calm. Several commanders are pretending to be calm. That is different and less useful. Lin Jin took the report. South Wall was damaged but standing. White Prison's navigation spine had survived with only 3 working routes. Red Prison was nearly burned out. The 3rd safe zone had power for 4 days. The 12th safe zone had food for 2. The outer settlements were asking whether the Zero rules meant they were free to refuse evacuation orders. Lin Jin rubbed his eyes. They are. Zhang Yu stared at him. That answer is philosophically consistent and strategically annoying. Send them the risk map. Tell them what happens if they stay. Then ask again. And if they still refuse? Then we defend them anyway. Zhang Yu sighed like a man who had expected that answer and hated that he respected it. I miss when tyranny was an option. It was terrible, but the paperwork looked easier. The first star tide hit before noon. It did not come as soldiers or monsters. It came as pressure across memory. Thousands of people across 7 cities suddenly remembered lives they had never lived. A baker in South Wall fell to her knees and began weeping for a planet made of glass. A child in the 12th safe zone spoke a language no one had recorded on Earth. 3 soldiers at the northern barricade lowered their weapons and whispered, "We already lost," again and again. The Star Sea was not only attacking walls. It was attacking certainty. Su Wanning established the White Prison total route, burning her remaining engines to connect every city that still answered human law. Her voice came through the central channel, dry and focused. I can carry evacuation, reinforcement, or medical priority, not all 3 at once. No one answered immediately. Before the Zero rules, the command hall would have looked to Lin Jin. Now it looked at the map. Representatives from 7 cities argued in real time. Loudly, badly, honestly. A South Wall commander demanded reinforcement. A White Prison navigator said that if the route collapsed, no reinforcement would matter. A nurse from the 3rd safe zone said medical priority was not charity when half the defenders were standing by pain alone. Lin Jin listened until the argument became a circle. Then he spoke. Make the choice visible. Everyone sees the cost, everyone signs the burden. The screen split into 3 paths. No perfect answer appeared, only consequences. The vote passed for evacuation priority first, medical second, reinforcement third. South Wall cursed and accepted fewer weapons. The 3rd safe zone accepted delayed supplies. White Prison accepted the risk of route collapse. No one was happy. That meant the choice had probably been human. By evening, South Wall mobilized every person who could stand. Not just soldiers. Mechanics welded broken armor plates to transport trucks. Teachers carried lists of children and emergency names. Prisoners from old holding districts volunteered for outer line labor and demanded written recognition instead of forgiveness. Xiaomin walked through the child shelters with the half-door folded behind her like a pale shadow. Children touched it when they were afraid. It did not make them fearless. It reminded the Star Sea that they had not consented. Lin Zhen watched from the command balcony. He had left the tower. And the city still treated him like a miracle with legs. He hated it. They keep saluting me, he muttered. Lin Jin said, you did hold the central boundary for 20 years. And you refused a throne yesterday. We both need tea and fewer titles. For a moment, father and son stood beside each other without war between their words. Then the royal court sent its answer. The old court had survived the apocalypse by becoming useful to every side and loyal to none. They had records, bloodlines, hidden vaults, and enough political instinct to smell a collapsing future before anyone else. For years, they had waited to see whether Lin Jin would become a ruler, a weapon, or a corpse. Now they chose. Their leader appeared on the main screen in formal black, surrounded by kneeling officials who looked deeply unhappy about not being in control. The royal court recognizes the zero rules, she said. We place our archives, shelters, and remaining oath networks under shared human defense. Zhang Yu leaned toward Lin Jin. That sounded painful for them. Good. The court leader continued. We do not kneel. Lin Jin nodded. Accepted. We do not surrender our internal authority. Negotiable after the tide. We do not call you king. Lin Jin almost smiled. Please don't. The alliance was born without ceremony. It had too many arguments and not enough supplies. Its maps disagreed. Its commanders distrusted one another. Its civilians asked questions in the middle of urgent broadcasts. The Star Sea pressed closer. Above the boundary, the ninth Star Lord's wound glowed like a split sun. Around it gathered other presences. Some weaker, some older, some so vast that looking at them made people forget the shape of their own hands. The first true impact came at midnight. The sky fell inward. South Wall's outer shield folded like paper. White Prison's root screamed under impossible weight. Red Prison's last flame bent flat against the ground. Across 7 cities, every soul link filled with the sound of distant civilizations drowning. Lin Jin stepped to the boundary. He did not raise a crown. He raised an open hand. Names, he said. The city answered. Not perfectly. Not all at once. Some voices shook. Some refused. Some cursed him before obeying. Which Zhang Yu later called a valid form of civic participation. But names lit, one by one, then thousands, then millions. The star tide struck the boundary and met not a king, not a throne, not a single perfect will, but a crowd of people saying, I am here. The boundary held for 11 seconds. Then it cracked. The final season of humanity's war began with that sound. The crack did not spread like broken glass. It spread like doubt. People who had been shouting their names suddenly heard a second voice inside their own breath. What if the name was too small? What if humanity's proud refusal was only a slower way to die? What if the throne had been ugly, but correct? The star tide slipped through those questions. Not as an army. As suggestion. A medic in the 3rd safe zone almost stepped away from a patient because the patient had only hours left and the next room held children. A route officer in White Prison almost sealed a civilian convoy outside the line because the numbers favored military transit. A South Wall gunner almost fired through a building full of trapped refugees because the monster shadow behind it was too large to wait. Almost that became the shape of the battle. The zero rules did not make people pure. They made the moment before obedience visible. They gave people one breath in which to recognize the old chain and decide whether to wear it. The medic stayed. The route officer opened a smaller lane and accepted the delay. The gunner lowered the barrel and screamed for a rescue team instead. 3 bad tactical choices. 3 human victories. Lin Jin felt each one strike the boundary like a nail driven from the inside. The crack stopped widening for a heartbeat. Zhang Yu saw the same numbers and shook his head. We are surviving through morally inconvenient behavior. Write that into the doctrine. I hate that you are serious. Above them, the star tide gathered for a second impact. The lights in the sky rearranged into a pattern no human astronomy had ever named. It was beautiful in the way a blade is beautiful before it falls. Lin Jin opened the public channel again. If you are afraid, say it. At first, no one answered. Then a child said, I am afraid. An old commander followed. I am afraid. Then a prisoner. Then a nurse. Then a court official whose voice shook harder than she wanted it to. Across 7 cities, fear became public property. The star tide had hoped to isolate it. Instead, humanity shared it badly, loudly, without dignity, until no single person had to mistake loneliness for truth. The boundary brightened. It was still cracked, but now the crack had hands around it. When the boundary cracked, the lost seat lit. No one had known whether the empty command seat beneath South Wall was real. It existed in old diagrams and drunken veteran stories, always described differently. Some said it belonged to the first summoner. Some said it belonged to the first person who refused to summon anything at all. Some said it was only a backup chair with too much superstition attached. At the moment the star tide broke through, the seat woke beneath the city. It did not call a ruler. It called witnesses. The signal traveled through stone, through blood, through every rewritten contract. The Zero rules had not yet finished healing. Names that had been erased from old military records began appearing on screens. Prisoners executed without trial. Civilians traded for time. Summoners burned out and filed as equipment loss. Children who had died before they were assigned numbers. Zhang Yu looked at the flood of names and went very still. Those files were deleted. Ji Yu Chengyi's archived voice answered from the ash page he had left behind. Deleted is not the same as gone. The white bone court rose from the old battlefield outside South Wall. It was not an army of skeletons. It was a judgment system made from remains that had never been properly named. White marks appeared in the mud where people had fallen. Each mark became a witness. Each witness became weight. The star tide slowed. For the first time, the star sea was forced to look at the cost of entering. Red Prison offered its final borrowed fire. The prison no longer had enough flame to fight as a fortress. Its walls were cracked. Its engines were dying. Its wardens had either fled, repented, or burned. But at the center of the ruin remained one red core. A punishment engine built for cruelty and repurposed by desperate hands into defense. Lin Jin stood before the core through a remote projection. The old system voice crackled. Borrow fire? What is the cost? Final burn. No return. Xiaoman whispered. If we take it, Red Prison dies. Lin Jin looked at the refugees gathered beneath its broken towers. Many of them had once been held there. Many had hated the place so much that seeing it burn would have felt like justice. An old woman stepped forward from the crowd. Let it die useful. Others nodded. Not all. Some refused. Some said the prison deserved no noble end. Some said using its fire would make their suffering into fuel again. So the Alliance did what it now did best. It argued while the sky was falling. The vote was ugly and close. Red Prison's survivors wrote a condition into the decision. No monument to the institution. Only names for the people consumed by it. The fire was released. It rose red and furious into the broken boundary. And for a moment the sky looked like it remembered anger. The fate administrator's seat returned next. Once, the administrator system had measured destinies, assigned value, and treated tragedy as data. Lin Jin had broken its authority. But its records remained. And records could become weapons if held by the people they once harmed. The seat opened inside the command hall as a circle of pale text. Every prediction the system had made appeared. This child will not survive. This soldier has low strategic value. This district cannot be saved. This family is statistically irrelevant. Then the system displayed the present. The child was holding a door channel with Xiaoman. The soldier had become a medic after losing one arm. The district had sent 3 repair crews to South Wall. The family had sheltered 37 strangers. The Fate Administrator's old law cracked under its own embarrassment. Lin Jin touched the pale text. Record correction. The system asked for a command. He gave it a refusal. No life is final data while it is still being lived. The correction spread. Across the battlefield, people once marked as useless became bright points in the defense network. Not more powerful than others. Not magically transformed into heroes. Simply counted. The Star Sea hated that. Its attack intensified. The 9th Star-Lord pushed its true body against the boundary. Surrounded by civilizations it had made peaceful by erasing choice. The other Star-Lords followed, each carrying a different temptation. Safety through obedience. Victory through hunger. Eternity through surrender. Grief turned into endless weapons. Then the Nameless spoke. For most of the war, the Nameless had been rumor. A figure without a file. A presence near sealed doors. A person whose name had been removed so thoroughly that even the systems that erased them forgot what they had done. When the white bone court rose, the Nameless stood at its center. They wore no crown, no uniform, no face that cameras could hold. Every image of them blurred. But their voice arrived clearly. I remember my name. The battlefield went silent. The Star Sea paused. Because forgotten things are dangerous when they begin to remember. The Nameless said the name. No recording kept it. No transcript preserved it. Not because it was erased, but because it belonged to them and not to history. The White Bone Court accepted. Millions of erased records rearranged themselves around that single private truth. The Royal Court, watching from its hidden archive city, finally stopped pretending neutrality had ever been wisdom. Its leader opened every sealed vault. Weapons, food, medical stores, family records, treason files, oath networks, proof of crimes that could have destroyed them politically if politics still had the luxury of pretending survival was clean. The court will no longer be silent, she said. Zhang Yu stared at the resource numbers. I am furious and relieved. Use both, Lin Jin said. The second star tide struck. This time, humanity did not meet it with one wall. White bone judgment rose from below. Red fire surged from the ruins. Fate records corrected themselves into living names. Royal archives opened their sealed arteries. Xiaoman guarded the children. Su Wanning held the root until her hands shook too hard to close. Lin Jin stood in the center and did not command them into one voice. He let them remain many. The boundary cracked wider. Through the crack, Lin Jin saw the 9th Star-Lord's true shape. It was not a monster. It was a civilization that had decided the safest future was one where no one could surprise it. Again, Lin Jin understood the fear. Then he rejected the future. Hold, he said. Not as an order, but as a plea everyone could refuse. No one refused. The star tide broke against the ugly, arguing, wounded alliance of the living and the remembered. And somewhere beneath the battlefield, the lost seat kept shining. The lost seat did not remain empty for long. People kept trying to assign someone to it. That was the danger of symbols. Leave a chair shining under a city. And sooner or later frightened minds begin to imagine the right person sitting there. The royal court suggested a rotating witness. South Wall suggested a military representative. The third safe zone suggested a civilian council member. Zhang Yu suggested putting a broken helmet on it and pretending the helmet was in charge. which received more support than anyone expected. Lin Jin refused all of it. A seat can witness without being occupied. The court leader frowned. That is not how seats work. Then it can learn. The lost seat answered by unfolding into a ring. Not a throne. Not a command table. A circle with no head position. Its light spread into 7 smaller rings. One for each city. Then into hundreds for shelters, routes, hospitals, defense lines, and memorial courts. The battlefield gained a nervous system. Every ring carried testimony before command. If a route was closed, the people outside the route appeared in the decision record before the order could pass. If a weapon would strike a civilian block, the block's names appeared on the firing screen. If a shelter requested priority, its needs appeared beside the needs it would delay. War became slower. It also became harder to lie to. The Star-Lords attacked that system immediately. One sent false names into the rings. Another flooded the witness channels with screams from conquered worlds. A third offered clean silence. A way to shut off testimony until the crisis ended. It was the same old temptation wearing a practical face. The Nameless stepped into the central ring. I will sort the false from the forgotten. No one asked how. Some work belonged to people history had already failed once. For 6 hours, the Nameless stood inside the ring and listened to every broken record the Star-Lords threw at them. False names dissolved. Forgotten names remained. Some were not human. The system kept them anyway. Because the war had already grown larger than one species' grief. By the time the second star tide fell back, the witness rings were dim and cracked. But they were still there. And now the Star Sea knew that every strike against humanity would be recorded by more than the victors. The chain tower betrayed them at dawn. It had been built long before Lin Jin's generation. A vertical prison of black links meant to anchor captured soul laws. For years, commanders had used it carefully. Then desperately. Then without asking enough questions. Every chain held something dangerous. Every dangerous thing had once been alive enough to hate. When the third star tide arrived, the tower chose survival. Its chains snapped outward and latched onto the boundary from inside. South Wall lost power across 6 districts. White Prison's route lurched off course. The Royal Court Archive City sealed half its vaults by reflex. The old instinct returned everywhere at once. Protect yourself first. The Star Sea pressed through the fracture. Lin Jin felt the boundary tear. The tower is pulling us open, Xiaomin shouted. Zhang Yu tried to override the chain controls and got a screen full of old authorization ghosts. It is using every dead command key in the system. Lin Zhen looked at the tower feed and went pale. Some of those are mine. The past had not finished collecting payment. Before anyone could decide whether to destroy the tower, Su Wanning returned. Her ship came through the broken route in flames, dragging a convoy that should not have survived. Refugees, medics, half a battalion from the 3rd safe zone, and 3 massive containers marked as agricultural equipment that turned out to be missile cores. Because Su Wanning believed in lying creatively to logistics officers, she landed hard enough to carve a trench through the outer field. When the hatch opened, she stepped out with blood on her face and a root key burning in her hand. I found the tower's missing exit, she said. Zhang Yu stared. Hello to you too. No time. It is feeding on unclaimed guilt. Every chain is attached to an old decision no one witnessed properly. Ji Yu Changyi's ash page flickered to life one last time. Then give them witnesses. The full ash registry opened. It was larger than anyone expected. Not a memorial list, not a heroic roll. A complete record of the burned, the lost, the misfiled, the abandoned, the inconvenient, and the unnamed. The registry did not flatter the dead. It did not turn them all into saints. It recorded thieves, cowards, deserters, children, saints, murderers, medics, liars, parents, strangers, people. The chain tower shook as the registry called each attached guild by name. Lin Jen stepped forward. Start with mine. Lin Jin turned. Dad. Number. This is how I reach you without building another throne. The first chain opened a memory. A street 20 years ago. Monsters at both ends. One evacuation route. Lin Jen choosing to seal a side tunnel with people still inside because the central district would have fallen otherwise. The old record called it strategic necessity. The Ash Registry asked for testimony. Lin Jen did not defend himself. I chose. They died. The city lived. I do not ask the dead to forgive the living. The chain cracked. Another memory opened. Then another. Not only his. Zhang Yu signed for orders he had buried under jokes. Su Wanning signed for routes she had closed. The royal court signed for families traded for political continuity. The third safe zone signed for people left outside locked gates. The battlefield became a courtroom without judges. The Star Sea hated this too. It preferred guilt hidden. Because hidden guilt becomes leverage. Bring it into the open. And it becomes grief. Grief still hurts. But it no longer obeys so easily. The chain tower lost half its anchors. Then the ninth Star Lord revealed its true body. The sky folded outward. The thing beyond the boundary was larger than the visible world. Its surface carried cities like scales. Each city peaceful. Each street clean. Each citizen moving with soft, synchronized purpose. At its center was a hollow where surprise had been removed. Every person who looked at it felt an unbearable offer. No more wrong choices. No more blame. No more standing in rooms full of consequences. Lin Jin almost fell into it. His father caught his shoulder. Look lower. Lin Jin forced his gaze down. Beneath the clean cities were roots. Billions of names tangled into black soil. Still alive enough to feed the peace above them. The Star Lord had not saved its civilizations. It had planted them. Xiaoman gagged. They're still there. Yes, Lin Jin said. His voice became very quiet. Then we can still reach them. The Alliance thought he meant someday. He meant now. Lin Jin stepped into the boundary crack. The ninth Star Lord opened its hollow center. You cannot free what no longer remembers freedom. Behind Lin Jin, the half-meal alarm rang. No one knew what it was at first. Then the screen showed a tiny domestic channel opened from an old shelter room. A table. 4 bowls. Soup reheated too many times. Lin Jin's reserved seat. Lin Jin's mother's old cup. Xiaoman, crying and furious, had activated the family channel by accident while bracing the half-door. It should have been irrelevant. Instead, it became the anchor. The Star Sea had offered peace without surprise. The little table offered unfinished life. Lin Jin laughed. And it sounded like pain leaving by the wrong door. I still owe my family half a meal. The boundary brightened. Across the Alliance, people began naming unfinished things. A wedding delayed for 6 years. A shop that would reopen if the roof ever stopped leaking. A grave not yet visited. A letter never sent. A child's promise to learn the piano from a teacher who had lost 3 fingers and said 2 were enough. The Star Lord's root soil trembled. The planted civilizations heard unfinished life. Su Wanning drove her root into the chain tower's missing exit. Zhang Yu fired the missile cores. The Ash Registry called names until screens cracked. Lin Jen placed his testimony beside his son's refusal. Xiaoman held the family channel open with both hands. The chain tower broke. Not into dust, into doors. Every chain became a path back to a choice someone had buried. The ninth Star Lord screamed with a voice made of orderly cities. Lin Jin reached through the crack and touched the first root. Wake up, he said. The root answered with a name from a world humanity had never known. Then another. Then thousands. The true body of the Star-Lord began to bleed its conquered dead. But the Star Sea had not yet committed its final force. Beyond the ninth, something larger moved. A devourer of civilizations, drawn by the scent of a world that refused both death and obedience, opened its mouth among the stars.